Hi guys, it's Lesley Tao here and welcome to my YouTube. I've got a very special piece for you today. Now, today's topic is about my dad and it's a true story. So this is how he went from living in a basement to building a multi-million-dollar property empire in the UK. Before I get into my dad's story, guys, I'd be so grateful if you could hit the subscribe and the like button. This story means so much to us, and I actually released this story on a platform called Medium. I'll include it in the description below for those of you who enjoy sort of reading as well. But Dad's article that I wrote about how he managed to build his multi-dollar property empire from nothing went a little bit viral on and got publicated. So a online magazine asked to publish it. So I hope that I will do it justice, although I don't think I will, through this YouTube video. So just to give you guys a little bit of a background, my parents come from Taiwan originally, and they came to the UK without much. So my dad met my mum in the UK, so they actually met here because my mum had come to the UK, had arrived when she was a teenager, and my dad arrived in the UK in his 20s. But my dad back in Taiwan was this superstar basketball player, and he was tall for a Taiwanese guy. So my dad is 183 centimeters, okay, although that's probably short for Western standards in terms of basketball. But he moved through school and college very quickly because of his athletic abilities. The reality is, guys, my dad flunked big time academically because he just wasn't interested in studying. But however, because of his basketball capabilities, along with his twin brother, so I have an Uncle Charles and they are identical twins, so much so that I think I called my uncle dad on quite a few occasions when I was little. So they were able to keep progressing through the Taiwanese education system very smoothly because of the basketball. When my dad arrived in the UK in his early 20s, it was a massive culture shock for him, and he quickly realised that his hoops shooting skills wouldn't be able to put food on the table and was not an asset. Yes, he was a hot shot basketballer in Taiwan, but in England he was nobody and didn't stand a chance, so that was his reality. Dad could have easily hopped back on a plane back to Taiwan, but he decided to stay in the UK and sort of see where the adventure would take him. You know, what could he do? So he ran out of money quite fast, and he actually got himself a human dishwasher job in the Chinatown kitchens. Now, my dad, apart from basketball, guys, and enlisting in the Taiwanese army, had never undertaken hard manual labour work before. He was very much pampered and looked after by my nana, who is my nana, so my dad's mum, in Taiwan, so he didn't have to lift a finger back home. Obviously in London, working in the Chinatown kitchens as a human dishwasher was very different. He was criticised at and shouted at all the time by the head chef or those who were higher ranked than him, and this was because he broke, a plate or a bowl, or he wasn't washing the dishes fast enough. So the hands that originally only touched basketballs, they started to crack and dry and bleed, and then became hardened with kitchen work, so manual kitchen work. So Dad, drenched in sweat, looked around the kitchen and he saw the head chef calling the shots. So Dad made a vow to himself that he had to learn an indispensable skill, and he vowed to become one of the youngest head chefs one day. But for now, he had loads and stacks of food bowls and dirty kitchen work to get through. So he actually managed to achieve this. And then when he reached the head chef position, then he was like, what's next? And that it was obviously the business owner, the boss of the business. So my earliest memory of my dad, guys, was when he opened our first restaurant in Cambridge in 1985. It was called the Tao, named after him because my family name on my dad's side is Tao, and because he's the twin, Xiao means little, so Tao means literally little Tao, which he was because he was the youngest of the family and the youngest twin. So Dad was determined so much to make things work, as he had me. I was only 3 years old then, my mum, and also my nana. She came all the way to Taiwan. She came all the way from Taiwan to the UK. My dad then had to feed, support and look after all of us. So what happened was my parents would put the restaurant tables together in the night for us to sleep on in the restaurant's basement. They bundled me up so tight, guys, that I remember just hating going to bed because I couldn't literally move. So they had bundled me up and stuck some pins so I wouldn't be able to break free. And that was just to prevent me from catching a cold because the basement was damp and cold. However, eventually my nanai, which is my nan, she was in her 70s then, caught a bad cold due to the living conditions. So indeed, it does make me feel a bit like, oh, when I think about this story. Every time I tell it, by the way, I always feel like this. And that's because I am a parent now and I have children too. So yeah, it brings, it's kind of one of those heart sores, but there's a nice ending here because both parents worked so hard for our livelihoods because we depended on them. So I think they're sort of more vulnerable is probably my nana and myself because she's older, I was younger then. So it wasn't long before, with the help of both parents working in the restaurant, we were able to put a deposit down on a house. So we were able to move out the basement within a year. So this is how my dad built his multi-million-dollar property empire afterwards. So as I've mentioned, our restaurant was called the Lesley Tao, and it was a big hit in Cambridge in the 80s and 90s. So Dad has somehow convinced the bank manager to lend him around £20,000, which is around $23,500. $23,500. So he used this money to start his restaurant business in Cambridge, and he was able to repay the amount back in full quite fast. The bank manager was so surprised that he eventually became Dad's most prominent financial backer in terms of lending. So he because of the reputation, I suppose, and the rapport my dad had with him, he or his bank was able to lend my dad money on his various property projects. And plus, he was also a regular customer at the Lesley Tao restaurant. So Dad then went on to purchase a few more freehold commercial buildings in Cambridge and Newmarket by using the restaurant as a cash flow base that was generating money daily. He was able to leverage against the business and borrow from the bank to fund his property acquisitions. My dad was also able to increase the value of these commercial buildings by creating more retail units and flats above them, and these were either sold or rented out. Now, over time, all these properties have at least 5x'd in value and are generating passive income with 15 to 20 year commercial leases in place. So generally the commercial tenants are very low maintenance and the interaction is limited, maybe on a yearly basis, if that. So technically speaking, my parents retired at a relatively young age as they were able to live off their passive rental income. And we've also, in this generation, so me and my brother, but we're working in the family, have been able to extract monies out of these properties via remortgage due to the equity build up over time and also mortgage reductions over the years. Now, I hope that this has been an inspiring story because my dad literally started from nothing, literally, okay? And I asked him the 5 tips he has for youngsters or people starting out today who are looking at property as an avenue for investing. So here are Dad's 5 tips. So number 1, do not think too much about whether you like or dislike doing something. Just knuckle down and get it done, guys, yeah? Dad's tip number 2, laziness is a horrible trait, so avoid at all costs. So in order to make sure that me and my brother didn't get lazy, my dad used to make us clean the toilets in the restaurants when we were younger. So we used to get the worst jobs, but it has put us in good stead now. Tip number 3, the bank is your biggest business partner, so don't piss them off. I think that's a really good one, okay? And number 4, be a person of integrity and do what you say you will. Your reputation is at stake here, and if you don't, people won't take you seriously. So I think the reason why he had the bank backing him, or the bank manager backing him, which helped him fund his property acquisitions, is because of this tip number 4. He was a person of integrity and he did what he said he would do. Number 5, build a cash flow base. It will make lending easier. So in this scenario, my parents' restaurant was their cash flow base. So they leveraged against the business and was able to borrow money. And there was a bonus tip. So this relates to, I suppose, property, but it could also relate to stocks and shares or cryptos, etc. Observe the markets and take advantage of a downturn in this case, the real estate market. So I really hope that you enjoyed the story about my dad. If you're liking these stories, make sure that you are subscribed and please hit the like button. So fingers crossed, I hope that this video will do well because the article that I wrote in Medium certainly did quite well. And as I said, I will leave that in the link below. All right, guys, thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.